from Albania, from really warm Albania these days. My name is Farah Zeka, and I will be moderating this event today. It is really a pleasure for me to be among young people here. That's why I love my job, because I can still work with young people and continue to learn from them, but also continue to feel young. Although in some months I will reach that age that European Union won't recognize me as youth anymore, but still important is how you feel. I will shortly introduce myself to everyone. I work as project associate in the RACE program. It's a UK Home Office funded project which aims to prevent young people, Albanian young people, from engaging with organized crime. I'm also a migration consultant at IOM Albania, and I'm working on a national strategy on migration. And at the same time, I'm engaged as partnership officer for a Young Professional Network, which is a youth NGO based in Albania. And we work to empower young people through capacity building and employment. I had a background in law from University of Tirana and a master's degree in international relations and security from University of Westminster. I was there as a Kevin Scholar. During my university years, just like you, I have been part of many conferences and trainings from Council of Europe, European Commission, on youth participation, democracy, and all sorts of training. So these experiences have made me aware of things that can improve in my country. And this desire to contribute to my country has also been with me through all my years as professional then. And in this regard, I know how important events like this like this today are. Do you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
We do.
Okay. So I was telling that I know how important events like this today are, so we can share our best experiences and exchange opinions, and in this way we gain some other experience to increase our knowledge, and later this can be translated in being more active citizens in our country. And I'm really optimistic for the future of the region and the young generation of this region. I want this event today to be like an open discussion. Let's say that we are all sitting together having a coffee and we share what we know and we talk between each other, and not to be just like a formal event. So please feel free to tell your opinions and to share everything that you think is relevant to the event today. I know that finally, after 2 years of social distancing and Zooming, you all went back to a really big youth conference, the 19th International Youth Conference on Kosovo, which was about European values of the future of Southeastern European countries, which I think took part in last days of September until 4th of October, right? There, it's a pity that I wasn't part of it. I would really enjoy being part of this 60 young activists from different countries who talked about, who had the opportunity to debate about the European future, as well as greater integration of the region and digital transformation, which we are all dealing today. Some of these young people are here. Okay, I see there is someone in the chat telling that you can hear me. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
It's not loud enough. Okay, I'll try to be more loud. Okay, so some of you who were in the conference in Kosovo are also present today, and they will reflect on the youth visions, on recommendations, and the pledges for action, which were outcomes of the knowledge cafe in the 5 following topics, which are inclusion, cooperation and partnership, as well as security, rule of law, and corruption, youth participation in the decision-making processes, sustainability and green region, and also digitalization and innovation. I would like to invite here Marko Vukovic from our colleague from Montenegro. And during his presentation, he will try to involve the two topics, inclusion, cooperation, and partnership, as well as security, rule of law in our region, and corruption. Marko, the floor is for you.
Thank you, Sarah. First of all, I'd like to say that it's so good to see all of you after how much, like month and a half, or actually exactly 1 month after we all left Kosovo. And it was really good time, and I hope I will see you all again. But it's great at least to see you over Zoom. So yeah, I think I should start. Yeah, I'm Marko from Montenegro, and I should start with the first topic, and is the inclusion, cooperation, and partnership. So our vision through the introduction of effectively implemented mechanisms for achieving regional youth cooperation that act as a sort of a catalyst towards regional transformations. By the way, I hope you all hear me well. Like I'm usually really loud, so I'm not sure if you can hear me. Yeah, great. So our policy recommendations are based on our, of course, based on our collaborative process. We were developing policies and recommendations during the International Youth Conference. So we proposed, first of all, the implementation of joint public-private investments towards establishing railroad routes that unite all Southeastern Europe capitals. Of course, that is a big problem because sadly, most of our railroad routes were lastly built, or even anything that was done about them was sadly in the 50s and the 60s. So the problem is really big, and the railroad is really bad throughout the whole of the Balkans, I think. Then redirecting investments in tourism towards promoting regional mobility within the Southeastern Europe countries, investing on the collaborative creation of TV shows, documentaries, and feature films, movies, so to say, on the common history and culture of the Balkans, as well as on the promotion of existing related projects. I think in the last couple of years, Serbia and Croatia had a couple of movies and documentaries about our common history, so something is being done, but sadly, still not enough. Then, the establishment of regional cooperation offices throughout the Southeastern Europe region and countries in order to promote cooperation among youth. Then the establishment of a regional council with representatives, throughout the countries, of all countries, in charge of a collaborative revision of history books, because that is actually a big problem, the different ways we study history in all of our countries, and how you can study the same event on a different kind of view on it and aspect of that event. So sadly, we don't have the same history books, or even the same topics that we study in all of these countries, even though we are so connected. Then the regulation of all diplomas in the region from universities, so they can work and use diplomas in every country of the region. Then the strengthening of transparent authorities against fake news and sanctioning fake news creation, which is kind of one of the newest topics we have now, because it's only been active in the last couple of years with all of the fake news that have been emerging and fake news creators. Then investing in initiatives that will directly combat nationalism by focusing on multicultural cooperation in the region, such as the aforementioned examples we had. Our youth pledges are: we plan to implement multicultural activities in school for presenting different cultural backgrounds through art, theater, food, music. We aim to promote our policy recommendations through personal and organizational social media channels, especially among youth, of course. And we will organize soft skill development youth-led workshops in cooperation between different Southeastern Europe countries to foster relevant partnerships. We will organize events involving youth from universities in all of these countries in order to promote those study programs and exchange programs among them, because we have a lot of them, but sadly we don't use them as much as we could. And also, of course, there is always room for improvement in the amount of programs we should have, because mostly students only go through Erasmus programs. We will plan informative seminars providing guidance on how to get involved in youth councils, CSOs, and institutions in various Southeastern Europe countries. So this is all of the pledges we made on our International Youth Conference in Kosovo about inclusion, cooperation, and partnership. I don't know if I should just go towards the security, rule of law, and corruption, or should we talk?
Maybe someone has some questions if they want to address now, or we can leave it all in the end.
Yeah, or if anyone has a comment about this part of our conference.
To me, there are very good points, Marcos. When I travel in the Balkans, it takes me like 24 hours to travel and change like 2 buses, and it's a nightmare. And we are so close to each other, and we should have like direct flights or direct like just railroads. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. For example, in Albania, we don't have trains anymore; they are not functional anymore. So it takes more investment on that. But like direct buses at least, so we can connect our countries. I'll say as the other topic to me is, I think it's very interesting of having of promoting this cooperation between universities. When I did my Erasmus 9 years ago, I went in a country in European Union, and then I thought I would like to live in Belgrade or Croatia. Croatia was not part of European Union at the time. I was like, why there isn't no cooperation between our universities so I can do an exchange in this country? So really, I hope we can solve this in the future through also our common initiatives of our governments now.
Yeah, I also know that even in Kruševan, a couple of days before that, I was in Ljubljana in Slovenia for a project, and basically all of the people from Balkans were competing who had the longest trip to Ljubljana or to Kruševo. Like I had 6 hours, I had 15. We made it actually a competition now because we have a big problem, sadly, with all of those. And talking about all of the opportunities in Balkans, I'm actually part of also. In my faculty of law at the University of Montenegro, we have a big thing about trying to make students come to mobility programs in Montenegro. And sadly, like for a couple of years now, no one is coming to Montenegro to study law through Erasmus. So that's some of the things that is a great opportunity, but actually, sadly, people don't know about it. And not only in Montenegro, in Serbia, in Albania, but yeah, that's one thing we should improve, definitely. Yeah.
Please tell us more regarding security, rule of law, and corruption.
Yeah, about security, rule of law, and corruption. Our vision is a Southeastern Europe based on rule of law with a fair and functional legal system, zero tolerance towards corruption, and a high level of transparency. Our recommendations were the establishment of an independent committee on law enforcement and corruption in all of these countries with members from all Southeastern Europe countries, not affiliated to any entities that may pose any conflict of interest in their position, mandated, and they would be mandated to assess the state of play in the region, release publicly accessible documents, including recommendations for relevant next steps to national and local governments. Because when we're talking about security and rule of law and corruption, it's the 2 most important chapters we have in our problems, including in our path towards European Union and negotiations is chapters 23 and 24. So basically, this is the biggest problems we have, and one of the hardest chapters we will have to close to our way of every country here to their way into European Union. Then we have the next policy is the creation of a regional convention controlled by a body of experts that has a non-partisan representatives, and youth minority in it. Then increasing penalties for corruption and legally prohibiting convicted government officials from ever taking over the same or any similar positions in the future, especially, of course, in the government. Then establishment of effective methods and tools to measure the quantities and qualitative impact of the implementation of those anti-corruption laws, frequently releasing those publicly accessible reports, which we mentioned in basically all of our policies, because sadly, even though those reports should be publicly accessible, most of them aren't or are really hard to access. And that's why we can't actually find out what is really happening in our countries. And when we do, like with the Pandora Papers and all of those other politics stuffs, we find out a lot more than we actually knew, but we should have known. Then our pledges are we will encourage youth in our countries to be part of the decision-making processes by offering them seminars on understanding politics, policies, encourage active citizen participation in youth organizations, of course, and with the help of academia. We will strive for the implementation of activities on critical thinking on social media, and we will become more heavily involved in local youth councils, carrying our innovative ideas born in initiatives such as youth conferences and international workshops, and moving them forward and promoting them even more. So those are the pledges the 60 of us, the 60 participants of International Youth Conference had on security, rule of law, and cooperation. I see.
Thank you, Michael. I think I saw a comment from Melissa, right?
We have some comments.
Your thoughts with us?
Should we, yeah, or should the person tell us, or if she can't, we couldn't read it? Yeah.
I think she's saying that there are like many programs in our universities now of international exchange programs. But what I meant is like exchange programs between the Balkan countries. Maybe the countries of ex-Yugoslavia you have between you. I don't have the information, but Albania is always a little bit outside, maybe because of the language and everything. So that's why I think I would like to have this kind of exchanges.
Well, also, yeah, the person here, Milica, yeah, she is actually right that there are programs, and especially if we mention Belgrade, because Belgrade is the biggest city in the Balkans now. So yeah, there are, but I think there is a lot more opportunities than students usually know. And most of the students coming from Montenegro aren't going to, at least to Belgrade, aren't going through programs. They are going for the full scholarship and for the whole 4 years. But she is right that there are, especially in Belgrade is the biggest town. But I see we have another question here.
I think Angie has raised her hand.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? First of all, I wanted to present myself. I'm Angie from the National Youth Council of Albania. With some of you, I have met in the Prespa forum that was held some months ago. So I'm happy to see some colleagues again from the region. And I also wanted to thank YPN for the invitation to be here today. I was actually, I missed some part that Sarah mentioned in the beginning due to technical issues. However, I was listening to Marco very clear and taking notes on some points that he said. On some points, I really agree, especially when it comes to inclusion, cooperation, and partnership regarding the encouragement of regional tourism, production of TV shows, documentaries. However, there are some points that actually I think are debatable in the sense that there are already existing initiatives, and I believe that before drafting policy recommendations, somehow it is important to see what kind of initiatives exist so far, and maybe if there are already, for example, structures established, to improve them and their work and not create a new body from the beginning, because it of course requires a lot of energy and a lot of, let's say, capacities and resources to be implemented, especially when it comes to the rule of law, for example. I see that from what I have followed in Albania as well as in the region, there are already different reforms that are undertaken. For example, in the justice reform and in anti-corruption laws, there are a lot of improvements in legislative side, since all of the countries are somehow aligning their national legislation with EU ones. So I do not think that establishment of independent committees, for example, it's something that is not done. I know that in Albania we have SPAC, which is a new regulatory body which is independent in order to, let's say, advance the anti-corruption law in national level. So I think that maybe getting more visibility or translating the work that is being done in a simple language for youngsters would be as well very relevant, in the sense that all EU process is a very long process. However, all the chapters are very technical, and despite the experts and the people that work in the field, and some of them in civil society, a lot of youngsters are skeptical, but as well cannot understand technical language and all what stands behind. So I think in a form of suggestion would be relevant, so we can somehow work to translate all the work done and all the changes more simple in a more simple way for youngsters to understand. For example, I also heard about encouraging to be part of youth in decision-making process through seminars and workshops and trainings. I fully support this, but to add something else in order to improve, because I know that a lot of seminars and events have been held for years in this regard. However, we still see that youngsters have less trust in politics and somehow do not, let's say, hesitate to be part of it in direct or indirect way. So in this regard, I would suggest that maybe we collaborate more with each other in order to strengthen our voice and lobby toward institutions and actually achieve concrete results when it comes to youth policies and youth actions, or let's say initiatives that are taken in the benefit of youth, so they can actually see, despite of course taking the right information in workshops and in events, they can actually see the result, and they can actually see how they can implement all this knowledge in practice. I believe that in case they see that there is actually a touchable result and there is a concrete action happening, they would motivate more to participate, and of course invite other youngsters to join and be part of events. So that is until now. I think that we will have a lot to discuss in the upcoming, but I do not want to take more time, as I know we have other discussion points in this session. Thank you.
Into the time is yours whenever you want to share something with us. I think that we have another raise hand, or am I mistaken? Okay, I think we can continue then. Regarding this training that you and yourself and Mr. Marco before, something that I have realized in this year is that sometimes.
Sarah, I apologize, but I can barely hear you. Please, if you can just turn without
I think all of us now it's
headphones.
Yeah, just 1 minute. I am more now, maybe. Angie, do you hear me?
It's a bit better, but I think without headphones would be perfect.
But I'm in a very noisy environment. We can. I could try, but there is a lot of noise around me. Is it better?
Yes, it will be more better if you keep the mic near your mouth, maybe during all the
Okay. Now?
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay.
Yes, now it's much more
Donada.
better.
Yeah.
Okay, I will keep it just like this. Yeah, I was saying that something that I have seen during these years is that sometimes it's always kind of the same people who are in the conferences and on the trainings and everywhere. And I know that there are very well prepared young people from the Balkans, and they deserve to be. But I think we should think of these trainings and conferences to be more inclusive. And maybe it's not fair to say this, but it's always the same people. So I think, yeah, we should try to include more diverse profile of people in order for everyone to be engaged. And regarding being engaged in active citizenship, our next colleague, which is Angela Serovic from Bosnia and Herzegovina, she will tell us more about youth participation in decision making and how you think that it should be done.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. I'm sorry you can't see me. I'm having difficulties with my camera, and I'm really sorry about that. But I'm Angela. I come from Bosnia, and I'm going to be talking on the behalf of the youth participation in decision making, which I think is a very important topic for us all. So our vision is that young people should be represented in a society as decision makers with equal say and have more opportunities for personal development and growth on local as well as national level. Our policy recommendations are based on our collaborative processes of developing policy recommendations during our conference, and so we propose the implementation of reforms in public education in the region to include, but not to be limited to, civic education in all school levels. Then, more representative bodies for youth, such as youth councils, youth parliaments, and so on, emphasizing and recognizing the importance of non-formal and informal learning as an integral part of education. Next, the creation of a cross-regional platform for private businesses and public institutions to advertise internships and traineeships and ensure awareness of all related opportunities within schools. Also, the introduction of more opportunities for youth participation in the decision-making processes on both local and national levels, inspired by examples such as participatory budgeting, European Youth Dialogue, and so, developed in collaborations with the youth. Our youth pledges. We will create a social media page to raise awareness on the importance of voting and being active in youth organizations. We commit to promoting the establishment of junior parliaments aiming to develop and propose policy recommendations to the state parliaments of Southeastern European countries. We will build an online forum to provide a larger space for youth to develop and engage with their own ideas and demands around social and political issues. We will take actions to preserve the existing debate clubs in universities and youth hubs by helping them gain publicity on a national and bilateral level. We will run online campaigns for and with young people actively involved in politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Actually, being like deciding and being in decision making is one of the hardest things, and I feel in this point they will take a lot of no's, but they also should be very like fighting for it to be part of these groups of decision making and in the politics. If ever anyone wants to share its opinion on this, please feel free to join the discussion. Otherwise, we will continue then with our other colleagues.
Can I please add?
Yes, Angie?
Regarding education reform, it's actually a very important point that we have, let's say, discussed, and it's very difficult along with experts to find the solution since there are different dynamics in different countries in the region. However, something that we have been lobbying and working on for years now, it's actually political education. So despite civic engagement and active participation in society, I believe that it's crucial for youngsters to know their basic political rights, such as voting, the right to elect and be elected, and to understand somehow what kind of institutions, to understand the division of powers, to understand different dynamics and how can they be part of policy making in different levels, such as in local, central, or even regional ones. For example, National Youth Congress of Albania has now a platform that has been developed recently in this year, but we have been working with political education for 4 years in a row. We have a dedicated program that we work with student councils in Albania in order to empower them and make them, let's say, aware of different developments that are happening in the country related to EU, related to different changes in the national legislation or different reforms. This year we've had 4 academies and 4 main reforms happening, such as justice, electoral reform, legal reform, and the voting. So different changes that have happened. And also we have discussed a lot regarding the elections that we have held, some months ago. And youngsters are very interested in this kind of topics because it's very, let's say, concrete for them to understand how this political education is actually related to their life. So as a suggestion in this point, I would also to mention and to include political education as well. I mean, in formal techniques, or as well part of different, let's say, subjects that are being implemented in formal education. And the other points, I totally agree with the colleagues, so nothing to add.
Thank you. It's becoming a little hard for me to manage my microphone, my camera like this, but we continue. I will invite now Donada Rada from a Young Professionals Network in Albania. She is my colleague, and she will tell us about the conclusions that the youth arrived during the conference regarding the sustainability and greener region.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for introducing me. My name is Donada Rada. I'm from Young Professional Network, and really it's a good pleasure to introduce the vision, recommendation, and news pledges from International Youth Conference that we had in Kosovo. As soon as really it's very important, this recommendation, vision, and pledges to share and to discuss with representatives from Youth National Council in different Western Balkan countries, as due to the fact that we need this kind of consultation and discussion in the way how we can implement this and the way how we can affect and advocate and lobby more and more regarding to these issues and concerns that the youth in Western Balkan countries are facing every day. As Sarah said, I will have the sustainability and the greener region. In the first view, it looks like it's more difficult regarding to the fact regarding that the youngest has to advocate and lobby in public authorities regarding on this issue. As soon as they are maybe facing more basic problems or concerns, it looks that having a greener region and having, and of course, about the sustainability, it's more maybe not complicated, but it's just this the first view that we have in our mind. But in fact, having this vision recommendation and the pledges from the discussion and from the working groups in the International Youth Conference, really we understand that we have so more easiest ways for advocating and addressing the problems and how we can improve these fields. So the vision of youngers from the conference, it was that they envision a region with a sustainable culture driven by green policies and innovative technologies with strong regulations. Regarding to their policy recommendation that they conclude in is that having and introducing mandatory subject on environmental sustainability in the public education curriculum, common for all Southeast Europe countries. Implementing a working infrastructure for recycling in schools, including a public awareness campaign for its correct usage. The implementation of various methods and effective legislation for averting corporate pollution, such as carbon tax. Increasing also funding for public transport, focusing on vehicles that rely on renewable energy sources like electric trams, natural gas city buses, and etc. like that. Ensuring proper infrastructure as to the means of transportation in the city, enabling access to all citizens, introducing grants and other financing mechanisms for various green initiatives, utilizing relevant European Union and national and cross-regional funds. And the last recommendation from the young, it was improving awareness and preparatory structures for combating natural disaster based on already successful models of risk management. And getting to their youth, to their pledges is that they have think for organizing environmental cleaning activities in schools on a monthly basis, so as to actively engage younger children in environmentally friendly action, building a green culture for the next generation. That is really important. And the next one is that wants to promote meaningful green initiatives in their universities, sustainability clubs. That is also very important, having discussion and of course getting maybe in new practice and in new recommendation in every month, in every year, that of course as soon as it's are some issues that they are updating every day. So technically this is very important about having discussion and between the young people and mostly in universities. They also want to buy for regional green policies through dedicated international youth synergies built around this purpose. And the last one from the young on this conference, it was that they want to build a website designed to promote green energy, green policies, and raising awareness on environmental issues through articles, photos, videos, and fun facts. So that was from for this point, sustainability and having a green region in the future.
Thank you, Donata. Having policies about the green environment is becoming more and more important. And while we are talking, also like COP26 is happening in Glasgow, and I hope this time the world leaders, they don't disappoint us, but they take like concrete measures on how to proceed with the climate change emergency. Otherwise, we will go with our pledges and recommendations and solve all these problems. But I hope like we can do that in the future. Regarding the next topic, we are going to talk about digitalization and innovation. And these 2 years, I think, have showed really how important it is, but how many challenges we face. The education system, which Albania was prepared of having online classes, but also I felt that the small size and middle-sized businesses, it was very hard for them to turn into digitalization. So yeah, I will invite now our colleague, Una Karac from Bosnia and Herzegovina, to tell more about what you think on this topic.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, so my name is Iman Una Karac. I come from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Travnik more precisely, and I'm gonna talk to you about all the the visions that we've had and our ideas from our 19th International Youth Conference in Kruševo. So my topic is digitalization and innovation. Our vision was to envision adequate knowledge and transfer and access it to ICT, also known as information communication technology, for people of all ages, including young people and public institutions. Public services and educational tools should be offered to all Southeast European citizens to use well-organized and visualized data from the use of ICT tools and services in the region to develop an easier and more efficient lifestyle. Our policy recommendations that we have based on our collaborative process of developing policy recommendations during our International Youth Conference, we have proposed that the introduction of a continuous consultation process between the ministries of education of Southeast European countries and the students of primary schools, high schools, and universities in the region, aiming to identify the level of information, engagement, and encouragement received through public education on the topics of innovation and the subsequent adaptation and improvement of the curriculum according to the feedback of the students. Next, the establishment of an awareness campaign on the benefits of digitalizing public services and visualizing citizen data on the usage of such services. Next, we have the improvement of digitalizing public services in the region, allowing easy access to public services to all citizens through an e-municipality project. The establishment of a regional fund for youth-led innovative businesses in the Southeast European countries, aiming to encourage and promote entrepreneurship amongst youth. The introduction of tax deductions and related benefits for the funding of new ICT companies by Southeast European countries, and the acquiring of ICT equipment by youth-led companies. The introduction of a cross-regional project for IT companies to donate equipment in schools and civil society throughout the Southeast European countries. The introduction of a digital nomad visa program for Southeast European citizens, encouraging cross-regional mobility and inspiration from related best practices. We also have the introduction of educational activities on the basic usage of ICT technologies in nursing homes and for the elderly throughout the region. Now we have our youth pledges. We would host presentations on the benefits of digitalizing public services and reflect on the existing procedures in our local communities. We will initiate a collaborative process with youth parliament members and ministers of youth in order to create a legal framework for digital nomad visas. We will establish legislation offices with countries that have already implemented well-developed e-government services in order to get guidance and inspiration for our countries in their attempt to do the same. We will also include rural areas in our attempt to promote ICT literacy by developing and implementing workshops on basic ICT knowledge in primary school and local libraries. So the consumption of this year's International Youth Conference in Kruševo shapes a promising network of young professionals ready to take action and inspire ideas for a more sustainable and inclusive future in the Southeast European region. And after careful consideration and intense brainstorming, we managed to come together and build our own vision plan, having in mind the very concrete obstacle on our way of its implementation. And it is our sincere hope that our mobilization will be the first step of including youth in the decision-making process, as well as the beginning of a firm regional cooperation, shaping both the present and future of the European Union. That is all, and if anyone has a comment or a question, that would be great.
Thank you, dear, for your presentation. I find it very interesting and very important, the last pledge, which I think is about including rural areas in our attempts to promote ICT literacy and digitalization, and implementing workshops for of basic knowledge on this field for the young people. I guess I find it that in Albania this is like really important. I see there are some comments which I would like to read. Well, there is a comment from Laden about the pledges that Denada just presented us for the realization of the idea for involving students in eco activities on a monthly basis. And actually, yes, it's a wonderful pledge. Thank you, Mladen. I don't know, when I was younger, we used to have this kind of activities in our schools. I don't know how the situation is now, but I remember the environment club that we had really changed the way I started to see this field and the things around me. And now since then I'm the type of person who always try to educate my friends of not doing this or being more ecological in their daily basis. Any other comments from your part?
I would like, I can maybe add something here, because I work in school, in a secondary school, and on, I would say that here in North Macedonia, especially, and I think on the Balkan is the same. In the formal education, the ecology is not so implemented, or it's just implemented formally. But in practice, we should bring more effort to do something like that. So this pledge, as I mentioned in the comment, maybe it should be like some kind of a mandatory thing that schools should implement in the future, but starting from the lower school years, and to be like a habit for the students.
I had some difficulties in hearing you very well, Mladen, but thank you for your contribution to the discussion. I think that Marco has also raised his hand to talk.
Yeah, I would like to say a few things about actually two parts of the policy recommendations for digitalization and innovation. The first is the e-municipalities, because you're talking a lot about them in Kruševo, and I think that is actually one of the things that I really like the most in the part of the policy recommendations, because e-municipalities could be a great project, because I honestly think that they are more connected to the people living in those municipalities than government as a whole could be connected to each and every single person. So that's why e-municipalities could be a good way to find what are the problems and what's the way of doing the thing Estonia did with all of the government, with everything going through the internet. So municipalities would be a great way to pick the best parts of every municipality's ideas and kind of make the best project for digitalizing the whole government. And also the second thing I would like to talk about is the digital nomads. And I think actually it's a great idea, because there is more and more digital nomads every day. And I think Balkans could be the great place for them, only if we could have decide on good tax policies for them and good ways to promote it. So I think a lot of people from the West could actually be coming to the Balkans, and also people from these Southeastern Europe countries could be moving a lot more throughout those countries just by fixing our tax policies and talking more about the opportunities for digital nomads to come to our countries. So yeah, that would be it.
Thank you, Marco. Well, there is a reason why we call this event today Parliament of the Future, because we are not discussing important things today, but also because here you bring, you represent your friends, your families, the common problems and challenges that you want, and also some solutions and recommendations. So please, I would invite the other people so who talked less today to share their opinion, or if they think that we have missed something in our presentations and something should be added in these recommendations. And I am asking this not only from the other people, but also from you guys who presented these pledges and recommendations. If something new came in your mind, that please just share it with us. Because I'm on my phone, I can't see who raised his hand. So please just take the floor yourself and talk. If no, then I would go with the last part of our event today.
Sorry, I think Vesna.
Okay, yes,
Sarah
please.
Vesna has raised her hand. Yes, it's Vesna. And then I would like to take floor after.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today with all of you wonderful people and youth workers who are dedicated at improving the quality of life of young people throughout our region, especially a very big and special thanks to the Youth Alliance from Kruševo and Anelia, who always includes me in this kind of events. My name is Vesna. I come from the Association for Multicultural Integration, Inclusia or Inclusion from Ohrid, North Macedonia. We are the only active organization working with youth rights and youth activities in the western part of the country. Basically, we have more than 500 volunteers engaged in our project. Unfortunately, everything is under breakdown now for the moment because of the pandemic, and we cannot achieve the range of activities we would like to have as we used to have, of course, before the pandemic. I would like to share some idea that has popped in my mind while listening to your conversation. Maybe it's a good idea for you to include in your report, in this recommendation, maybe the states or the ministries for education can suggest secondary and primary schools to form some kind of youth sections where they can engage, let's say, students from 6th to 9th grade in the primary school, and of course students from 1st to 4th grade in the secondary school, where they can work on some kind of projects that are of their interest, and maybe that's a good suggestion and idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vesna. Is it Vesna, right?
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Yes, it's Vesna.
Regarding the sustainability and green, let's say, agenda in the region, I think that there are other initiatives that maybe can be included as policy recommendations. One of them is actually the preservation and promotion of protected areas and natural resources that we have in the Western Balkan region. I know that there are a lot of forests and a lot of, let's say, areas that are protected by international mechanisms in the country. However, for youngsters, they are not very much, let's say, known. And in order to see, for example, the preservation of different species that live there, or different, let's say, plants, or different actions and projects that they can implement. Previously, with National Youth Congress, We have developed local youth action plans, and we have a dedicated, let's say, chapter, and we have been working all this year on the environmental and green policies chapter, and I think that also green entrepreneurship should be developed and implemented as policy recommendations, so the encouragement of green jobs, especially for youngsters, in order to encourage them, why not, to let's say choose green professions as their career path in the future. In many, but in the region as well. Since this issue is becoming very much important, I think the need for new experts is very much needed. Regarding the concrete actions, I would very much suggest to work with schools as well as universities in the region to open and diversify the study fields. There are several study fields that they can work on, especially related to green jobs, for example, environmental policies, urban planning, etc. However, the curricula is not very much updated, and the teaching methodology is not, let's say, very much in the field. So I think that implementing or including this kind of new techniques and new ways of learning would be very much beneficial for youngsters as well as for the country, and of course be a concrete contribution to the issue. Something else that I would suggest is to lobby toward businesses and state institutions for concrete actions. I think that, however, if, of course, on personal level, we can be more aware and change our everyday habits toward more toward friendly environment actions. However, I think that businesses have a lot of impact when it comes to pollution of air, soil, and when it comes to green policies. So I think that the state should, together with civil society and experts as well, should somehow indicate some measures in order to encourage businesses to turn, let's say, their everyday actions, the ones that can be turned, into more environmental friendly. By giving subsidies, for example, for to change some, let's say, some devices that are very much polluting the area, or by educating their employees in order to reduce waste, or to, let's say, diversify waste since the very beginning. So to how to say, to recycle, reduce, and reuse within their offices. And the same towards state institutions. They should be more aware that their everyday actions count. So I think that we should put more pressure, public pressure, on this side. And we should, of course, let's say, encourage them to turn more into environmental friendly, for example, by using green energy and by reducing waste in their everyday. Regarding digitalization, one thing that I suggest is, and what I see very much needed, is the infrastructure in education and digitalization in education. The pandemic situation brought a lot of challenges, and somehow we were not ready. I mean, not all of the schools were ready to, let's say, incorporate the kind of changes that happened due to lack of infrastructure, also due to lack of training of teachers, because they have different ages and somehow not all of them are very much adapted to technology. So I think this is something that we should very much work on in the future. Of course, use the schools that already have this kind of infrastructure as positive models, but as well invest in other schools, especially outside the urban areas, mostly focusing in rural areas, and let's say using technology on their own benefit. Regarding digitalization, I would also very much encourage to have to link it with employment. Technology as well can be used to work remote, but unfortunately not all of youngsters have this kind of information in the region. And I think that it's very much needed to have info sessions with them for different platforms that they can use to work as freelancers, for example, from their home, only with access to laptop and internet, as well as training for digital skills and how can they, let's say, be self-employed and work, let's say, from home in this regard. If I have other suggestions, I will let you know, but this was from my side, from what I heard from the two colleagues and two presentations on the topics. Thank you.
Angie, thank you so much. Your inputs are so appreciated. So yes, if we have any other who would like to join the conversation, otherwise I will continue to the part which I think is very important for us to discuss. Please just take the floor, because as I told you, I cannot see who raises the hand. Okay then. So we all talked today and gave these very good recommendations and pledges and what we should do. But I think it's sometimes very difficult to turn these visions into concrete policies and concrete actions. And that's why we invited today the Youth Council as active contributors in representing the voice of young people in decision-making processes in national level, international level, regional level. So we invited them today to share their perspective, their opinion on how we can turn these visions into like concrete actions. Please, if we have Clyde Haidari here, National Network for Youth in Albania, I would invite you to tell us more regarding this. We had 3 participants from Albania, I think. There is some other colleagues from Youth Voice Network of Organizations, Erdiona. I hear someone, but I cannot understand.
I'm saying that Angie will need to talk again because she is the only representative of the Youth Councils today with us.
But I also will invite Vesna. I think she's a representative of National Youth Congress on her country, right? If you have some idea of how we should turn these visions into actions and concrete policies, girls, from your experience and your work, just please inform us more.
Yes, our organization is part of the National Youth Council of Macedonia. Actually, I have been thinking for a while about the topic, and this initiative is broadly unfamiliar and unknown in this region. So maybe in the western part of North Macedonia. So maybe we should consider to increase the visibility by campaigning, especially public campaign, social networking, and using traditional media as well. But I think that maybe we should consider the idea when things get more better, or when things get more better, of course, in terms of COVID-19, to organize some kind of event here in Ohrid, maybe, where we can include organizations from Struga, Resen, Debar, Kičevo, that can form part of the event, and that way we can spread the word.
Thank you, Vesna. While we speak, I'm trying also to keep notes, just for me, but it's a challenge for me too. So, Angie, you also are a representative of Youth Council, National Council of Albania, right? Tell us how you do in your work. How you influence?
Okay, so for the colleagues that maybe have not heard, National Youth Congress of Albania is the biggest umbrella organization in the country. It's actually a grassroots youth-led organization that has been established in 2012. First as an informal, let's say, group of 30 organizations, but now we are registered and have more than 120 subjects from our last assembly of 2020, including here youth informal groups, representative of student unions, youth organizations, representatives or youth coming from political forums, as well as activists and representatives of student unions, student councils, so in high schools as well as in universities. What we have been doing regarding these years is that we have divided our work in different levels through the main 3 programs that we implement. Institutional dialogue and cooperation is a program dedicated especially in local level. We have a team of 12 coordinators in the 12 main regions of Albania, and 3 years ago we have, as I said, established local youth action plans in local level, and each of the plans has different chapters regarding the main issues that youth face and the main policy recommendations. In some of the cities, they were actually the first local youth plans for the municipalities, since especially in rural areas and small cities, strategic documents on youth were missing. So we were there to support governments, institutions in this regard. After the implementation of this initiative, we have been working with the first 2 chapters. During 2020, we have been working closely for the chapter of youth employment, and we finalized 12 local youth master plans, strategic documents guiding, first analyzing the current situation and then guiding institutions by presenting concrete actions, what they can do and implement for this issue. This year, we have been working, as I said, in the chapter of environment, however, linking it with the work of last year, that of employment, and we've been working closely for green policies and green employability. We are now in the process of designing the manual on environmental protection for municipalities, and we have been working closely with German experts and let's say imposing their good practices from the collaboration of universities, public institutions, and civil society organizations. And together with municipal representatives and experts, we are developing the manuals on climate change and for socio-economic transition and transformation. Another main program that we implement, I mentioned a bit previously, is that on political education and capacity building. We have been working closely with student unions in high schools and with youngsters in universities, especially when it comes to political education, regarding their main basic rights, how can they get involved and participate in decision making, how can they be active change makers in their communities. And this year we have been working a lot on 4 academies, on the main 4 reforms. And the last program is especially related to research and monitoring. Since 2019, we have a new law on youth in Albania, so has years implementation. However, no monitoring report was ever done. So maybe in the end of this month, we will implementation of youth policies in national and local level. Something else that we have, or 2 important initiatives that we have, let's say, undertaken during this year is being part of Youth Policy Lab by Regional Cooperation Council in order to encourage the collaboration between state institutions and the civil society organizations. And we've been working closely with the issue on employment, and the next youth lab that will be opened next month will be focused on mental health. While an important initiative, and what I mentioned as a suggestion previously when it comes to participation, is that of concrete actions. And actually when the youngsters see that despite having the trainings and despite having the knowledge, there is concrete result on the field, they are more willing to join. We are very happy and proud to have won the Tirana European Youth Capital title in France in 2019, and we are now in the preparation phase of implementation of this initiative. Next year, we are planning to implement more than 1,000 activities and include more than 5,000 youngsters from the region and from the EU countries, let's say divided in 8 main programs, all of them, of course, closely related to youth. And I would like to invite the colleagues as well to search Tirana EYC 2022.al for further information and update regarding this program. So it is a very ambitious initiative. However, we are proud that we won this title for the first time. And Tirana Capital, after the pandemic situation, is the first country that is being implemented, let's say, physically, because the other capital titles, most of them implemented activities online. But we're happy that we are going to bring this youth energy in Albania and, of course, present it as a positive example as well as for other Western Balkan countries. And in case other countries want to apply in the upcoming years, why not have our support and our guidance throughout the application process? That is from our side. If I have missed anything, I'm open to questions. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Angie, thank you so much for all your contribution today. And I know that you are doing a good job at your work and the National Council too. So I wish you a lot of success in your on all the projects that you have and will continue. I think here we have also many other colleagues which are a lot of experience, and they are like members or heads of their local youth councils. I would invite if you'd like, Mladen, to talk more about your work and how you try to turn these recommendations in real policies.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mladen.
So, as you mentioned, I'm the president of the local youth council in a small town in Macedonia, Kratovo, and this idea for the local youth council, we evolved it after a project that took place in Kratovo, thanks to Youth Alliance. Like the project was about the cities to be friends of the youth. That happened last year, and in April this year we formed this local youth council, and in this small town in Macedonia, it was the first time to have a local council that will start to work. So we started first with we made a research among the youth in Kratovo, and we found out several issues that were referred like problems for the youth in Kratovo. We made like a small event where we presented those results, and after that we started to make our plan for working. Still, it's not well understood the role of the youth councils here in Macedonia, but we start to, like in Kratovo and other cities and towns in Macedonia, we started to change this, and I think in several years it should be really better. So I understand, and I always say that we cannot do a lot of things overnight, but it will take a lot of time, but it's better to start than to do nothing. After this investigation, after this research, we started with activities. We started to collaborate with a lot of NGOs that work on the youth policies and youth activism, and we started to send, first of all, youngsters to educational trainings. Like we had a gap for several years of this type of non-formal education in Kratovo. So we decided that it should be improved. So some of the educational trainings were here in Macedonia, but the last 2 months we started to search for Erasmus project and send youngsters from Kratovo to Erasmus projects in the European Union, especially. We have a good collaboration so far with our municipality, and right now we are in a process where we should start to require from the municipality some services that they should provide to the youngsters, like youth office and cultural center, I mean youth center. So in the next period we're doing that. Otherwise we try to improve the volunteerism of the youth here and the youth activism. That's our main point. So we plan, we already had some activities in which the youngsters found like they need them here in the town, but we are continuing with many more in the future. So I think this is the first time after many years that the young people started to think different and to accept our work, first of all, and to accept us like someone who can change something here. Especially because it's really a small town, and we face with youth that it's not really active. Like they're really passive, and they even they don't have many activities to do here in the town. And our biggest problem is that the young population is moving out from Kratovo. Like I remember when I was in the high school, there were 350 students, and now after 8 years, there are only 200 students. So we are facing these problems, and now we are trying to make something different, at least to make the youth more aware that they can change something and that they can improve their lives if they're active and if they provide for the municipality and for the environment here. I think that we're on the right way so far. We'll need more efforts and support from the local municipality, from the local people, from the local youth. But as I said on the beginning, it's better to start from somewhere than do nothing. Thank you. If there are any questions or if someone wants to add something, it would be
Thank you,
wonderful.
Your name means young, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's a very nice name.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. You mentioned something which is very close to my heart, and it is like the massive youth migration that is happening in our region. Apparently, it's a thing in Macedonia too. In Albania, it's a massive thing, and it's something that it's making me very, very sad. So it's hard to make these people stay, and that's why we should try hard to make our communities more inclusive, for these people to find that there is space for them in our countries, and it's not always the best solution to live. Well, now I would like to invite a colleague. She used to be a member of the board member of National Youth Council of Macedonia, but now she is the operational manager of Youth Alliance Kosovo. So please, Anelia, share with us some best practices from all these years of work that you have.
Okay, so I hope that you hear me well. Maybe I look not so well because I'm also taking care of the live stream. Just a slight correction. I am no longer part of the board of Youth Alliance. Another colleague of ours is a board member, and this is Andre. I used to be, but I want to take the liberty to talk about what the National Youth Council can do. I will talk out of the perspective of Youth Alliance because we do have a lot of experience in implementing the pledges in cooperation with the young people. And plus, these recommendations were done on one of our most important events where we include more than 60 people and give them the space and the platform to express their thoughts and actually to give them a platform to do some action in the future. What I would talk about is more about the recommendations for the inclusion, cooperation, and partnership, which I think I won't be modest here, and I think this is one of the biggest strengths of Youth Alliance, and we can really provide to the young people who are having different kind of recommendations here to find a common solution and to do the actions and the pledges all together. What was interesting to me, it was that there was one pledge that they will establish a regional cooperation office that will connect the youth. There is one regional cooperation office for the Western Balkan 6, which is called RICO. And it's very funny, to my opinion, that the young people don't know about the existence of RICO, and this is something that RICO should put eye on it and to start promoting the mechanism and intergovernmental institution that they are, and to start to be more recognized among the young people, because according to these 60 young people who are doing recommendations, they're not aware that they are existing. So this is a huge remark and something that should be done by the intergovernmental institution. However, what I think that a Youth Alliance can provide is can provide a know-how how to establish the cooperations and the partnership. In terms of, we can provide different kind of mechanisms that we have used. It's quite nice to listen to Mladen and to Vesna that all the opportunities that we have provided have helped them out. So yes, out of the network of youth-friendly city, Mladen was able to establish the local youth council in Kratovo in huge support of my colleagues in my office. So what is needed to the young people in order to implement any kind of pledges is they to have a guidelines and a know-how from someone who has the experience. Because the directions are always the ones that we are missing. Being part of different kind of structures in my country, sometimes I have felt lost because you have some aim and you want to achieve something, but there is none of direction that they can guide you and they can give you a space and a platform how to do it. So different kind of mechanisms are possible, but the young people, they cannot do alone. So yes, when we see that the young people are the future or the present, and the young people should be innovative, this, according to my opinion, being still young, because I'm the last year of my, by the law of my young years, I don't agree with it, because we do need to give them a platform to the young people and a space, and plus a direct mentorship to the things that the youth are doing. So any of these recommendations can be implemented, and I truly believe in the enthusiasm of the young people, but we should give them a space, because none of the governmental institutions are giving the space to the youth. Mostly they are using us as the core. I don't know if it's right in English. None of us is using us as a partners. To be factors and to be partners and equal on the table, we should have we need to have the know-how and to have the mechanism to do that. So this would be, let's say, my proposal, my recommendation, and all of the young people who are needing support from Youth Alliance, for example, Marco, because I think that you're the youngest here, you can always reach out to us and we can connect the dots and to help you out with all that you have envisioned and imagined. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you to you, Analia, for your inputs. They are very well received and appreciated. And guys, I think here we're coming to the end of our event. So please, if you have further comments or questions, you can share with us now. I hope it's same for everyone. It was as interesting as it was for me and fruitful. And I want to thank Liliana and Analia for inviting me today to moderate this event. Well, I guess we will have to say goodbye now since we don't have any comments or questions from your part. It was a pleasure, guys, and I hope to see you in other conferences or activities. Keep up with a good work and stay healthy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye bye.